$5 trillion in a spending bill that Biden, progressives, the left want you to stomach, and they're telling you it's not going to cost you anything. Pete Sepp, president of the National Taxpayers Union, joining me now. Pete, how you doing this morning?
Doing well, and thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being on here. So, as long as I don't make over $400,000, I'm not going to have to pay a damn thing for this $3.5 trillion spending bill, right?
In the words of Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, right? No, you're going to be paying a whole lot more. This is the reason that they're trying to basically cover up what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. No matter how many times they try to rearrange the math, rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic, whatever analogy you care to use, they can't make it add up. Because when you want to enact this sweeping kind of legislation, basically imposing a middle-class welfare state on America, that means middle-class tax hikes. There are not enough billionaires in this country to pay for this ambitious of an agenda.
Pete, the way you broke it down, I think you're saying it's going to cost more than $24,000 per taxpayer, or more than $10,500 per U.S. resident. How did you come to those figures?
Well, it's a simple matter of dividing the total cost of the plan, $3.5 trillion, by the number of tax-paying entities, units, the IRS calls them, not real human beings. That's another problem. And you get a $24,000 figure. Now, obviously, some people will pay more, others will pay less. There certainly are taxes levied on the wealthy in this plan, higher income tax rates, higher corporation tax rates, higher capital gains tax rates. The problem is you have a trickle-down effect with tax hikes, just like you do with tax cuts. If, for example, we end up raising the corporation tax rate to 26.5% from the current 21%. Congress's own nonpartisan budget scorekeeper, it's called the Joint Committee on Taxation, they say $100 billion worth of that tax hike will fall squarely on the shoulders of households making less than $100,000. That's because corporate taxes get passed along to workers in the form of lower wages, to consumers in the form of higher prices, to investors, not just big Wall Street investors, but IRA holders, college savers, people who have their money stuck in investments and see stock values drop because the taxes on the rich people cause them to engage in less stock market activity. It all rolls downhill. And there are some direct middle-class tax hikes in here. A new methane fee, which will basically raise the price of natural gas. That's already going up in price. This is going to make it worse.
So basically, Pete, what you're saying is that the Biden administration's using all kinds of budget gimmicks to try to pretend that it doesn't increase the deficit when, in all actuality, it 100% does.
Yeah, it's the worst of both worlds. Not only are we talking about $2 trillion or so in heavy tax hikes, many of which will fall on the middle class, we're talking about at least another $1 trillion in deficit spending. That gets added directly to the national debt. That's a major problem because, of course, deficit spending is really nothing but higher taxes deferred into the future. Somebody else at some future point is going to have to pay the taxes to satisfy those debt obligations. So we're losing both ways here. And of course, the budget gimmicks that they're trying to use they basically amount to trying to stuff $5 trillion worth of spending into a $3.5 trillion sack. Now, Speaker Pelosi is saying, well, we have to trim the package some more, maybe to $2 trillion. Well, I guess that's progress for Washington, D.C. But setting that aside, the problem here is that the actual cost of these programs can't really be obscured for more than it takes to vote them into law, because in the end, They say, well, let's only make the extension of the child tax credit 5 years instead of 10 years. Hey, suddenly the cost has gone down. No, it hasn't. You're simply moving the goalposts and pretending the cost has gone down.
We're talking to Pete Sepp right now, president of the National Taxpayers Union. Pete, real quick before I let you go, I want to jump over to the IRS. This IRS expansion topic. Is this going to create a lot of snooping? I mean, does the average Joe and Jane got to worry about the IRS looking into the financial activities of people even making minimum wage?
Yeah, they should be very worried. And let me tell you, we've worked on taxpayer rights issues and IRS reform for the better part of 35 years. This is the worst proposal I have ever seen in those 35 years at National Taxpayers Union. It will expand the IRS's dragnet to virtually every American who has a bank account now. It's $600 of transactions in a given year that will trigger the snooping requirement to have them access every detail of how and why you're putting money in and taking money out of that account. And if they believe that this is only going to target the guilty, forget it. This is a way for the IRS to come to you and say, hey, what's up here? We think you're trying to get out of paying taxes. Most Americans will be so frightened by getting that letter from the IRS in the mail, they're going to pay up even if they're innocent.
All right, Pete, thanks for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
All right.